Killing spree. Game over.
Back in December of 2001, I knew that Halo was coming out in March of 2002, so I thought this could be the first console esports title to actually get into. So March came, got it, played it for a silly amount of hours, probably like 12 to 18 hours a day, as any other player would when they first choose their title. And literally one of the first tournaments I went to was a local event in London. And winning that first event, it really made me realise how much I wanted to continue my way into the esports scene. And then WCG in 2003 came along. It was kind of like the first major event we had in console esports. And when I qualified to go to South Korea, I was absolutely ecstatic. And my dad was with me at the time. I was only 14, so this was like a complete craze for me. I was just like, it was unbelievable. I was going to South Korea for it. But the problem was, when I got there, that's when I really noticed the talent from all across the world and how good each of these players are from all the different countries. And then when I lost to the #1 player in America for top 8, I was in absolute tears. I was devastated. But that's when I finally realised that esports in UK was the thing for me to push on with. Back then, especially in UK esports as a whole, in the early days, it was very, very difficult to get any kind of funding or sponsorship. And when Intel came in, because I was actually with Dignitas for a few years, Intel was a huge backing for me. They was able to fund me to compete at these other events, to actually try and improve myself as a player as a whole. And I think just overall, Intel managed to actually achieve my dreams and my passion to actually continue further to compete. In terms of the player base with Halo as a whole, the UK is still the most dominant country in Europe, but we're still falling quite behind by North America. Back in the very early days, like 15 years ago, we would come like top 24, top 20, top 16. But every 3 or 4 years, we always improved that placement. The highest placement now for a European team is actually top 6. And with my tournament placings, I've won about 25 events, but I've not got the best placement in the States. We've got some really, really good players now. You know, the potential to actually push further from that top 6 is there. But when it comes to winning an event, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but it's definitely not impossible.
Brilliant plays out of Lethal, as we haven't had a reason to leave his screen.
In terms of how you progress from like players to coaching to casting, or in terms of some management role in an organisation, I think it's always important to start off as a player, because you need to know the industry firsthand. You need to be in that front line to understand exactly how esports works. So for example, from my background, I started off as a professional player, and then I started coaching, and then I went into casting, and I've also done a lot of marketing and PR stuff. So I've been on every part of the esports background because I want to learn absolutely everything there is. You know, there's so many different jobs you can actually do in esports as a whole. I think EGX is very, very important in terms of how esports does grow. Because with EGX, even though it's one of the biggest esports events to have in the UK, it's important because you get a lot of casual players who come in to try out all the new titles who could also be potentially esports titles to come in the future. And when they actually see the huge stages we have, and when we commentate them and see all these professional players, a lot of these younger players will look up to them as role models or influencers and go, well, you know what, actually, I would love to do that. Not everyone knows about esports, so there is a lot of casual gamers out there who don't know too much about it, but when they actually come and see it for themselves and experience it firsthand, it really changes their motive on how they see things. But we haven't actually had many majors until this year, where we had ESL 1 in Birmingham, we've got ECS coming up, and I think now that with the UK majors happening in the UK a lot more often, it's going to bring a lot more players and a lot more people from grassroots to actually want to try and compete and actually be one of those players on the stage, or if not, be part of the talent. The future of UK esports is very interesting, because in 2002 I knew it would be quite big, but not at this magnitude. I never thought, you know, millions and millions of viewers and players would be competing for such large sums of money. And I thought to myself, well, it may happen one day, but as you've noticed, esports, not just in the UK, but just as a whole, it's just absolutely phenomenal. It's huge. I can't believe just how much it's grown in such a short amount of time. It's literally rapid. So it makes me realise now that in 5 or 10 years' time, it's like unpredictable to an extent where it could grow in 2 or 3 times the size now. So it's actually really interesting to see how well it will go in the next 5 years' time. If you want to actually progress as a player to begin with, it's quite an easy question. It's literally grind, grind, grind. You've got to be super dedicated and devoted to that one game. I would definitely suggest not concentrate on multiple titles, because I've done that myself and it's extremely difficult to keep up at a high caliber. There's so many different ways to actually get into it now, and there's so much marketing involved where you can't really avoid the fact that esports title you're competing in, there's so many different tournaments. There's multiple ways to actually try and find a way to actually progress as a player.